Hi everyone, welcome to Get Known, Be Seen TV, Web TV. I'm Trish Springsteen, I'm your host. And Get Known, Be Seen Web TV is all about those people who have books, messages, products that they want to suddenly have that 60 seconds of insane courage, get up and share them with everyone and make it easy for their clients to find them. Now, the other stream that I have guests on who have techniques, strategies to help you get known, be seen. So today's guest that I have is Brenda Adelman, and Brenda actually has not only techniques and strategies, but she also has a book. So we're going to have an awesome time. Let me introduce you to Brenda. Brenda Adelman is an award-winning actress, a recipient of a Hero of Forgiveness Award, and has a master's degree in spiritual psychology. She's been interviewed on Fox TV News and NPR, so I'm so absolutely awesome that she's on my little web TV. She's performed her critically acclaimed one-woman show, My Brooklyn Hamlet, based on her life story, and spoken on how to use your life story to heal, inspire others, and make money for over 12,000 people worldwide for audiences as diverse as women prisoners, youth at risk, spiritual communities, and at theatre festivals. She is a speaker, a coach on video presentation coach, and solo show mentor with clients presenting their stories on stages in the US, Canada, and Europe. Awesome lady, and has some, I would believe, brilliant information on visibility. So welcome, Brenda. I'm delighted to have you on the show with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. And I was listening to my bio and I'm like, well, time to pivot, because it's all these places I've performed all over the world and stuff like that. But I'm so grateful I have, and I can absolutely help people with visibility online, on Zoom, on Skype, you know.
And people, we're going to have an interesting time because we are on Zoom. We are on at a time where the internet is just chock-a-block. So we may have a few frozen moments as we go through, but that's just all part of the fun, and we're going to enjoy that. So,
yes, I can't wait to see the screen. I can't wait to see the screenshots as it keeps freezing. At least hopefully they'll be fun and entertaining.
I think it's going to be an absolutely awesome interview. Look, how about we start just share a little bit about your journey, because a little bit about where you're coming from and how you've got to here. I love your business name, Forgiveness and Freedom. I think there's a lot of stories behind that.
Yes, thank you. Didn't hear the full question because it's freezing, but I will just say what I think you probably said. Maybe how did I start teaching forgiveness and go into this? I was actually an actor studying acting in Los Angeles, had acted in plays in New York and Los Angeles, and studied in London when something happened in my life that really blew my world apart. And it was that my father, who I adored, I was daddy's little girl growing up, shot and killed my mother. And so, as you can imagine, for those of you who've gone through things, maybe not exactly what I went through, but have gone through your own ordeals, my life just stopped. Life the way I knew it stopped, kind of like right now, it's different circumstances, but life the way I knew it stopped. And I went into a depression. I went into denial about my father's hand in it. He shot her in the head. And as long as I was in denial, as long as I was in anger, I was hiding. And then about 3 years after my mom died, I decided, I was guided really to put my story up in an acting class in Los Angeles. It was an exercise to just be real on stage. And though I was so frightened of being judged, so frightened that, you know, and what I got was no judgment, but a standing ovation, 100 top people in this class, and someone who wanted to work with me, and someone sharing with me, a few people after class sharing things they were ashamed about. And that gave me the impetus to turn that story, which I never planned to be performing in public.
You turned that particular thing into your one-woman show.
Yes, I turned it, but the show, and then it's real and it's raw and it's about the power of forgiveness. And my real healing took place when I started first witnessing my story on the pages of my journal, and then presenting it on stage, and then learning that I could forgive my father while setting a healthy boundary, which was I didn't take him to court from hatred or punishment. I took him to court from self-honor and self-love and forgiveness. And so that changed my life. And then the way I got into teaching forgiveness, I got a master's degree in spiritual psychology from my healing. I was led to this wonderful school that was experiential. And then years later, I was doing my show, and a minister at a Unity church said, you know, you should do a workshop on forgiveness, because people see your show, their hearts open up, but you know actually how to teach them. Why did I lose so many years to depression? Oh, it's because I didn't release my anger in a healthy way back then. So that's why in step 1 of my process is actually getting in touch with your anger and releasing it in a healthy way. And I looked at all the different steps I took in the sequence that would work, and I put that together, and people wanted to coach with me, so I started coaching, and that's how that part of my business.
It wasn't until you stepped up and shared your message, and you had that courage to share that message, that
yes,
people started to find you.
There was so much inner work and courage that came up with sharing my story, but I had no idea that in sharing my story, I was going to help so many other people. And it is what gave me the impetus to go on. When those people in my class were like, oh, I've been ashamed about this, let's say a divorce and the father leaving, totally different sort of okay to just share of yourself. It gave me the courage to get over this. Then that was what helped me to keep going and sharing, knowing I was helping other people, which, you know, people do when they share their story in a way where it's on the way to healing. Like even before I did the inner work that I've done over all these years, my show was not like a victim story on stage. It was not. It was like, I remember the message of my show, the very first time I put it on was, will I ever love and trust again? Because I wanted to so badly. And I felt like I wrote that into my life, because after the first production of my show, I ended up getting married, having a child, like being able to love again and trust myself again. And then the second iteration of the show is now on forgiveness, how you can forgive.
Awesome. So what would you recommend to people who have a message, a book or something similar, whether it's not necessarily as deep as what you had, or but even just something that's very personal to them? What would be the first steps that you would recommend for them to get out there so people can find them?
Yeah. The first step I would actually recommend, especially if you have a personal story, obviously mine is murder, but I've worked with so many people over the years in different capacities. It would really be and how I teach is like writing your story and healing it at the same time, because I took 2 years off, because after I had a pretty successful production of my show, I was kind of miserable. The audience would be laughing and crying, and then I'd feel lonely and desperate. So I took time off, and I see that's the problem. A lot of people start writing their story, and they haven't healed the inner part. So like their inner child is like, no, I don't want to do that. And then the other thing is to get skills. I come from New York. I studied in acting class for over a decade before I started, doing my show. And for writing, get the skills you need. I know there are so many people who have books, but with my book, I got it edited twice over, even though it's self-published. It's like, have the story be the best it can possibly be. And I guess one piece of advice I have is that, I certainly know it from myself, is that oftentimes, like as a beginner for myself, I thought I was better than I was. And it was really important, like, don't let that stop you from writing or stop you from telling your story, but get feedback from people who know, and then don't take it personally. Check in with yourself, see if it's accurate, and then make your work the best it can be, whether it's your book or your show or your story in your videos that you're sharing. Make it the best, the most concise, the most entertaining, the most powerful that it can be. And even for the people who, feel like they don't have a big enough story, never have I ever had a client come to me, or even a potential client, that didn't have something vulnerable, like that they felt so alone when they were younger. And like, that's what, you don't have to have a big story.
Yeah, so you don't have to have a big story.
No.
You can just have whatever's meaningful of you, and then have the courage to share it. Now, what I
Yeah.
liked about what you were saying about your book and that, and one of the things that people don't really do, but they should, the most important part is edit.
Oh, yes, please, please. It's almost like a certain where you got an agent, you know, you got published, you had to get vetted, and then the books are a certain quality. And now because you can be self-published, there is definitely an accomplishment in having a book published, but there's also sometimes maybe it's a pet peeve of mine. There's this attitude where people think their book is better than it is. And I want people to be the best. I once had a mentor, they had a writing coach, it would be better. And it would be something they could be so proud of 10 years from now, not looking back and saying, oh yeah, there were typos, the story structure was wrong. You know, it's the same thing I do with my presenters on stage. It's like story structure and building the story and things like that, that if you haven't taken any of the skills for the format you're delivering in, you have an opportunity to learn that and get excellent at what you do so that what you're presenting out there is memorable and you stand out.
Be proud of what you're doing and take advantage of the people around you, the strategies, techniques, those people, to get your things to the level that you want to have it. Awesome. I like the fact that you not only do help with what you're saying is really great for my authors. Editing is the biggest thing, and getting some people and a group of people to help keep you on track. I actually have a book marketing club where I work with people who've just finished writing their book to repurpose and leverage that book to get out there for people to find it. So we're talking about repurposing and leveraging their book to get out there and find it. And what I like also is that you took from that, you also help people find their stories on stage. What's the biggest thing that you can talk to that maybe we can share with my watchers who want to take that book and then start speaking about it, or want to take that message and start speaking about it? So what would be the one thing that you could sort of help them when they get onto stage with doing that?
Well, I have worked with authors because there's an organization here in San Diego that I teach a create a solo show class from. So authors come because they're the best people to promote their show. Like, it's an essence, just read it, you'll stand out from everybody else. So what I would say is, you know, especially for the authors, well, first of all, if you're writing something based on your life, it's probably a big story, an origin story. Like, I have my story, I do it on stage, I wrote it in my book, I'll do it on interviews. But I would say for those, because I've worked with authors, it's the courage to be seen, because writing can be a very private process, and you don't have to be seen in the way that performers are seen. But if you understand that your message is so important and that you have talent in you that is just waiting, whether it's your voice, whether you're a poet, whether you want to move your body, like, use it, use you as an extension of that story that you're already so fired up about giving to the world, you know?
Awesome. Awesome. I love the information and the imagery that you're sharing for people to have, what I call it 60 seconds of insane courage to get up and let people see who they are. And especially I've been working with some poets who do poetry, and when you can get them up to read their poems, that's where they really shine. They shine very much when they read their poems. We're having a really great time with this. I love this.
It just rose. Actually, my entire Woman show came out of a poem I wrote during my deepest despair. It was a poem that was me confronting my father and saying, what happened, what happened, what happened? And then I turned that poem into a 3-person scene with my brother, my father, and I, and infused dialogue. And it was like, what's so great about poetry is there's so much juice when you write poetry that it lends itself to performance, I find, you know, but it is deep. And it is, for me, it was dark and it was deep and it takes courage, but the reward for having that courage when you see how the audience reacts, even on video, because I did a showcase a couple of times for clients who are all over the world who want to put on a one-person show, and it's the first time I did a public showcase was a few weeks ago, and to hear the audience afterwards just thank my performers, just thank them for opening their heart to them, it's like that oneness that you feel when you're speaking about your personal story and even elevating it by acting it. And acting, for me, is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. That's what Sanford Meisner says, who is the technique that I studied. So it's not fake. It's just being more of you. It's like
awesome. It's like just really being who you are and putting it out there.
Yes, without the world saying you must be smaller, you must do it a certain way.
Which is not easy for people. It is not easy, and especially for women, because we hide who we are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was so hard. Through dedication to wanting to feel better, that I could get in touch with the fact that I had a lot more rage in me than I thought. Instead, I was like, well, I know this happened, but I have to get over it. I can't. That's BS. The real me was raging. And it was only, I mean, for me, it was the 2-year master's workshop. Like, I did what I needed to do to get the support I needed to even tap into that anger. Because yes, as a woman, it was like, it's safe to be smaller, or you're supposed to be smaller. So yeah, I hope you like me are like, we're permission givers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned your book. So share that book with us.
It's probably, is it backwards?
No, we've got it right.
My father killed my mother and married my aunt, forgiving the unforgivable. It's one of the ways I explored. Honestly, when I started writing, I explored many different ways of telling my story. One was a screenplay. It's a mixture. It's half memoir and half my forgiveness process, my 3-step forgiveness process. So I kind of share my story, and then I'll say why this step of my forgiveness process is here, and then I'll give a story to back it up, and then that's what that is. It's on Amazon. It's a Kindle book.
Which came first? Was it the book or the one-man show?
The one-woman show. The one-woman show. The reason I wrote the book is because that minister wanted me to do the workshop, and then to do the workshop, I was like, okay, I want to look at my process, and then when I was looking at my process, I decided to write the book.
Okay. So how much has impact do you believe that having the book has had value to what you do?
I think it's added a lot of value. I personally, then people always want more, and then I'm like, and it was an ebook at first, so I used to sell it at my workshops, it is awesome to have a book, so that when someone says, do you have a book? I can say, oh, yes, I do. In addition to my clients are getting the book, so they're looking at my process. I'm not having to repeat it, so it helps that I don't even know. I do have to figure out how to get those names. But, you know, it's been really valuable. And it was really it was a valuable process writing it and getting it all down there. And for me, because I'm a creative too, having it be the self-help book and also part memoir, for me, I wasn't ready to write a memoir that's longer. Because
the memoir was a bit too personal to write completely longer.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're different formats. So with the one-woman show, first of all, I have a lot of humor in it. The whole first part of the show is really funny. And then I get to pick and choose which stories where I take the audience on. Like, I could pick the stories that serve the steps in my forgiveness process. But in writing the memoir, because I started years ago, it was like, it's a different format. I have to really get into those very dark places that for me then I did not want to do. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but it was it's fascinating. And I've been like, well, I'm happy right now with what I have. Doesn't mean I wouldn't write it someday.
Oh, awesome. I think that's a good thing to pull out. With people who have got memoirs and who've got family stories and they're not too sure, a good way of doing is what you just sort of highlighted, is hinted to a how-to book. Link it to something that you've got a message or a workshop. So I'm just saying, link it to a how-to book, link it to something that's a workshop, and it makes it easier.
Yes, and also because I'm a coach, it like serves my business completely. A memoir would be a whole different thing. I think I would go probably for a screenplay before I would do a memoir, depending on the market. There's definitely a story there. The other thing I would say, certainly with a memoir, but with anything, my advice was before to writers and stuff, it's like complete. Don't just write the same chapter over and over again. Most people have, I find, a hard time completing. It's the same thing with a one-person show. That's why it's so important to have a mentor or a community or something like that. Or even marketing, like, it's so good you have that because...
Yeah, so you were saying people write the book, but they don't know what to do with it.
Sometimes. I mean, it's the same thing with playwrights. They'll write these great plays and either they don't know what to do with it, or their inner saboteur stops them. Really has success in the world, has had a lot of rejection too, but you don't, you know, you reframe it. It's, I didn't fail if someone didn't pick up my one-woman show at their theater. It's, in some ways it's a numbers game, and I want my work to be in the right hands, but people, you know, it's about really being productive and getting out there and not taking things personally.
Yeah, I like that point where you say it's doesn't matter if you don't succeed the first time. It's not really failure. It's just working out where you need to be positioned.
Yes, and use it as something to go further. Anybody who has real success, has had real success in life, you're willing to be courageous and be like, okay, what can I learn from this, and how can I get stronger? You know, what's the alternative? That you play small, but you don't get, someone doesn't judge you. I always say this, you know, we're going to be judged if we're small or if we're big. I spent too much of my life trying to be invisible because my family was kind of scary to be small anymore. So if I'm going to be, and people will judge you for being small, they'll judge me for not having an opinion. So I'd rather be judged for having an opinion than not having one.
Awesome. I love that. I think that's something our viewers should really take away, because we hide ourselves with, I'm not going to say anything because it might be controversial. It might let people know who I actually am. But we might as well say something, because then people will find out who you are and not make perceptions. So
yes.
Why not you set your standard rather than let them have perceptions?
Exactly. We can be the co-creators with spirit of our lives, you know, or whatever you believe in, instead of being on so many auditions and so many things. You just kind of have to realize that, you know, you take getting a part or not getting a part with a grain of salt. And I would put myself up in acting classes, top acting classes for years. And so I'm very much like, I want to keep making things better. Instead of time we get to a next level, you know, there's fears and concerns. And then it's like, well, I'm going to remember that I'm really resilient, and that my message is more important than anything else. I think that was the one thing I learned with, you know, my mom dying when she did in an instant, and me losing my family in one night. It was like, now with what we're going through in the world, it's like nothing is promised. So why should I be not living my dream or expressing myself today? Like if it brings things to the surface of, you know, how can I be more of myself today?
Love it. It's like live each day, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Well, I've had a great conversation with you, and it's going to be interesting how this will work out.
I hope it comes out with all these, I kind of feel like they're bloopers. It's like, I'm frozen, you're frozen, but we still are keeping with the conversation. So we'll see. I know everybody's dealing with this kind of stuff with the internet right now.
Oh, I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. Look, just before we do go on, and I'll get you to share, let people know where they can contact you, and I think you've got something to give away. I was wanting to know your 2 top tips that you could give my viewers to step up and be seen. 2 tips.
With the visibility?
Yeah, with visibility.
2 top tips to step up and be seen. Actually, I feel like a big thing is relaxing before you press play on video. Like if you can do a dance, put music on that you really love, if you need energy, or if you need to calm down, to just breathe, do some yoga before you press play, that will help a lot. And then for being seen, literally, like to do videos, let's say, because I'm teaching a lot on that right now. Imagine someone you love right beyond the camera. And if you need to put a picture of them there, do that, but at least start with that instead of being terrified of the little circle that is not giving you anything. You know, imagine that person, that puppy. I always imagine my dog Boomer. And also just get into your body instead of into your head and trying to make it right. Instead, connect.
I love that. Get into your body rather than your head, because that's where your heart is.
Yeah, that's where your heart is.
Come from.
Yeah.
Love it. Who has influenced you the most?
Who has influenced? You know, my mom started taking me to Broadway shows when I was like 3 years old. she would drag me into Manhattan. I was living in Brooklyn at the time, on the weekends, and we saw greats. Like, I even remember seeing Ethel Merman. I saw Carol Channing. I saw Danny Kaye, going to the stage door at the end. And one of the girls that was like a girl in the play, she was like in her late 20s, and it was magical to me that on stage she could look like a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old, and here she was like a grown woman. So I kind of feel like that in the back of this. I start my one-woman show dressed as her with the wig and everything like that. I would say it was her, my mom.
Your mom? Awesome.
Yeah.
And people, it's been absolutely awesome speaking with Brenda, and a challenge because we've had a bit of fun through this. So this will be a different sort of interview, and I love it because this is what life is about. Life is not smooth. Life has lots of bumps, and this is what this interview is about. It has had a few bumps. You have a free gift to give people.
Yes, Find Your Story session. Hopefully you're hearing this now. A Find Your Story session for free. And you have the information there. And so book that with me and come ask me any questions you have. And if you have an idea of what you want to share, run it by me. I've been a coach for many years now, and I can help you kind of get to the truth.
Awesome. And you can find Brenda on Facebook. You just have to put Brenda, her name, Brenda Adelman. And you put it there. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram. She's on LinkedIn. She's on YouTube. Go to YouTube and see some of her videos. They're awesome.
I have a lot of videos there, and definitely get in touch with me on Facebook. While I'm on those other places, I'm not really on them that much.
Yeah, Facebook is where the best place to go. And yeah, do go and look at those videos. They're awesome videos. And just show us your book again, where people can go and get that.
It's on Amazon. It's My Father Killed My Mother and Married My Aunt, Forgiving the Unforgivable, and it is my memoir and my 3-step proven forgiveness process.
Awesome. Up there on Amazon. Absolutely up on Amazon. Go and have a look. And thank you so much for being with us today, Brenda, and for putting up with the ups and downs of our internet connection.
Thank you.
People, you've been watching Get Known, Be Seen Web TV. I'm your host, Trish Springsteen. I'm a creative business consultant, Australia's leading expert in empowering introverts, multi-international award-winning mentor, and international award-winning best-selling author. At the moment, I have 16 books to my name that I have co-authored, authored, or been a contributing author to. But most importantly, my passion is helping you to get known, be seen, helping you to make it easy for your clients to find you. Don't forget to subscribe to Get Known, Be Seen Web TV. And if you'd like to be a guest on it and you think it's time for you to have 60 seconds of insane courage, get up and be seen and be known, just contact me, and you can do that by leaving comments below here on the video when you see the interview, or you can PM me on Facebook and just put Trish Springsteen in. I'm all over Facebook, and I'd love to hear from you. You've been watching Get Known, Be Seen Web TV. Bye for now, and we'll be back for our next episode soon. Thanks, Brenda. Bye.
Bye.